was able to show me the audio of 3 bullets, a pause, and then 5 more bullets that sound totally different echo, and then a last bullet that also sounded, and yet we're being told there were only a couple of shots and then one miracle shot from the sniper. Have you looked into that? What are your thoughts on that?
Welcome back, Warriors. It's me, Linda B. Thank you all so much for joining me here today. Today, I have some very concerning news about Donald Trump, and we just need to continue to pray for him. But before we get further into it, don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you haven't already. Watch the video to the end. Now, this is from a fellow YouTube content creator, Stephen Gardner, and he is talking to Alex Newman regarding Donald Trump's safety. So, we're going to want to watch it to the end, like I said. Now let's get into it.
Great communications or anything. He said a few things, that he wanted me to keep silent, but most of it was on the record. And he said the deep state absolutely despises Donald Trump. He is genuinely pro-America. He is genuinely opposed to globalism. He's genuinely opposed to the destruction of the United States of America, which so many of our elites or elitists seem to be pursuing. And so he said they're going to do anything and everything necessary to take him out. And that was during the Russia collusion hoax early on. Of course, that whole thing has fallen apart. But at the time, it wasn't clear to everybody that that was going to end in, the persecutors looking ridiculous. But he said that would fall apart. He said they would move then to what he called Plan B, which was the 25th Amendment. And of course, just like clockwork, just as Roger Stone said it would, they started promoting this idea that Donald Trump was crazy. They started putting these fringe psychiatrists on all the networks and saying, oh, look, Donald Trump is clearly crazy. He's putting us at risk and he got to be removed. I actually spoke to some of his cabinet members later, and they did say, yeah, there were efforts to recruit us to do a 25th Amendment coup against Donald Trump. Wow. to oust him from power. And then Roger Stone said that would fail too. And he said Plan C would be actually to assassinate him. And, a normal person saying that wouldn't be that big of a deal. But when somebody like Roger Stone, who's been right at the heart of American politics since the Nixon administration, says something like that, somebody who wrote a book on the assassination of John F. Kennedy, said, this is probably serious. I actually used that as one of the headlines I wrote from our conversations. And sure enough, 7 years later, it appears that that is exactly what has happened. You're right. Incompetence, idiocy is one hypothesis, at least, about what happened that needs to be considered. And I think if you look at this objectively, government is not famous for doing things well or efficiently or anything like that. But the Secret Service is by far the world's most sophisticated protection agency. I mean, there's not even a close second in the world. And so to believe that a 20-something-year-old doofus with an AR-15 got up on a roof and took a shot at the former and likely future president of the United States with nobody doing anything just strikes me as a bridge too far. I believe, based on what we've seen, that this was an attempted deep state assassination of Donald Trump. This 20-year-old doofus, Crooks, was probably a patsy. He may have actually believed he was going to assassinate Donald Trump. He may have believed he was going to be a hero and save the world from literally Hitler, as the media likes to call him. But I suspect this was a much bigger operation. And I talked to a senior guy at the DOJ just the other day. He used to work at DOJ. He's not there anymore. But he said this would be a real easy investigation. He said you just need to find out who gave the order not to have that roof covered, and that's where you start. That's where you start unraveling.
Who gave the order to have that roof uncovered? I mean, there were so many gaffes in this whole thing. I mean, you think about it. Who does the Secret Service report to? I want you all know what I'm getting at. If you read between the lines of what I am saying, presidential administrations ultimately guide and are over all the other departments. I'll say it again. Presidential administrations ultimately are over all the other departments. And I know you all who watch me and who are conservative leaning, you already get it. You already get it. But in case there's a clefty lefty, a liberal person who just might come across my video, they may not know that. Okay. And if I always say as well that history is a great teacher, because remember with the JFK assassination, they brought this up. JFK was Of course, you know what happened to him in 1963. Lee Harvey Oswald was just a fall guy or a patsy. The real culprit was the governmental evil powers that be at the time. Okay. And if you research, and I'm going to do this research, I haven't fully done it on other assassinations or attempted assassinations, then what you will find, I am sure that it's not just some little 20-year-old who, just some poor guy from somewhere. That's just the fall guy. We got to be, as Americans, we need to be smarter than that. And we also need to be smarter than just to believe the news, the propaganda media, all the networks that spew out things that are not true at all. We are being indoctrinated. We are being brainwashed, essentially, not by drugs, but by the media itself. I know in the 50s and 60s, they would try to put people on certain drugs to put them under mind control. Today, we have the media.
Traveling this, you find out who gave that person the order not to have anybody on that roof, and this would be a real simple matter to solve. That's not happening. In fact, the FBI doesn't even seem to be asking for help from the crowd in identifying the different people who may have been there. So something's really fishy about this, Stephen.
Yeah, you compare this to like the Boston Marathon bomber, where they were like, please, everyone send in your video footage. We're going to have teams combing through this. We are going to get to the bottom of who this was. It's like they don't really seem to care. This Cheadle woman showed up earlier this week, and she sits in front of Congress for hours looking like a complete imbecile. And like, I'm sitting back going, oh my gosh, if this person was in charge of my life and my security, like, I can't believe that there hasn't been more assassination attempts. And it's certainly shown the world that there could be more in the future. I don't want that to happen, but yeah, the idiocy, as you mentioned, I don't know if you saw this, but just minutes before we went on, the Trump at the Trump assassination hearing, the head of the Secret Service, the FBI, and Homeland Security are declining to testify. They're saying we don't want to be involved. We don't want to share information. I'm sure that they're using the Christopher Wray, head of the FBI, excuse of, this is an open and active investigation. It would be inappropriate for me to talk about that. Do you think Congress rushed this, or do you think that they are using that as cover to not tell the American people what's happening?
I have no doubt that this is cover. And just, I ask people to think about this for a moment. These very same people, the FBI, et cetera, have spent the last 8 years terrorizing not just Donald Trump, but everybody around Donald Trump. I mean, they yanked Roger Stone and his wife out of bed at 6 a.m. with CNN in tow. They threw Steve Bannon in jail. They threw Peter Navarro in jail. They threw Paul Manafort in jail. They terrorized General Flynn and threatened his son with prosecution if he wouldn't plead guilty to totally fraudulent charges. Over and over again. And now we're being told that we can trust the FBI to investigate. That's the most asinine thing I ever heard. And nobody with two brain cells to rub together should believe that the people who've spent the last 8 years trying to destroy Donald Trump using lies, subterfuge, and absurdity can now be trusted to lead this investigation. So I actually called Roger Stone on Friday and just reminded him of our conversation. He was well aware of it. And I asked if he would talk again on the record about these things. And he said yes. And one of the questions I asked him was, what do we make of this investigation? Who should be leading this investigation? Can we trust the FBI with this? And his answer was brilliant. No, you can't trust the FBI. Congress needs to lead this investigation. Congress has subpoena power. Congress has at least more trust from Americans than the FBI does at this point. And Congress hasn't at least explicitly been trying to destroy Donald Trump for the last 8 years. So let's have Congress lead this investigation. And frankly, I don't think resigning like Cheadle just did is going to be enough. I think these people need to be brought in for questioning under oath with the understanding that there's an active criminal investigation going on here. And anybody caught committing perjury is going to jail. Anybody committing contempt of Congress is going to jail. This is a serious thing. I mean, I know the media likes to downplay it and, oh, MAGA world is outraged about Trump getting injured at a rally. No, this was an assassination attempt against the likely future president of the United States. It doesn't matter if you like him. It doesn't matter if you agree with his policies. It doesn't matter if you hate him. We've got to get to the bottom of this. We cannot have our politics settled by people shooting people. That is not going to fly. And so Congress needs to lead this probe, not the FBI.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yes.
Don Jr. said for these sickos that it wasn't enough that Trump was shot in the head. He wasn't shot enough in the head for them. And, I'm just so grateful, I'm sure you are too, that like the last 10 days, I haven't been reporting that, his brains were scattered everywhere like JFK's were. But yeah, I mean, people don't trust that the CIA wasn't involved in this because of things they've done in the past. People don't trust that the FBI wasn't involved in this because of what they've done in the past. I read today that there is going to be a bipartisan investigation. House Speaker Mike Johnson and Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries announced a bipartisan task force to investigate the security failures that allowed an assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump. The task force, composed of 7 Republicans and 6 Democrats, will have subpoena authority and aim to uncover the incident. I'm grateful they're setting this up. This seems like the right thing to do. Let's go back in time and then we'll come back to this, Alex.
I definitely think that sounds like the right thing to do. What do you all think? The fact that you're going to have Congress actually leading an investigation, 7 Republicans, 6 Democrats with full subpoena power. Anybody caught lying goes to jail. This is serious. You better be telling the truth. Your life is on the line as far as your freedom. As far as your freedom is concerned, you better tell the truth. Or you, like I said, they need to put it plain so that anybody can understand. This is more than serious. And just to think that Donald Trump's life still is not out of danger. Because do you feel like they're just go, oh, well, that's the one time we tried to do this, we're just going to give up, it didn't work? Or do you feel like they're going to try it a different way? Remember who we're dealing with. Remember.
Why didn't they do this with the January 6th committee? Why wasn't there bipartisan focus? Why wasn't there an equal amount? Instead, Nancy Pelosi stacks the deck in Trump-hating players, and then picks the 2 most Trump-hating Republicans in the nation. Why didn't we get that with the January 6th committee?
Yeah. And then they destroy all the evidence and then act like it's no big deal, even though their own inspector general says there were likely violations of federal law committed in destroying all this evidence. I mean, this thing just stinks to high heaven. And, it's good to see Congress getting involved here, but the idea that Hakeem Jeffries and the rest of these guys actually want to get to the bottom of this, I think is rather implausible. But it is good that this is now being considered on the floor of Congress, but it's going to have to be a lot more serious. You're going to have to bring in professional investigators, and there's going to have to be accountability. We're in a time where these guys get a slap on the wrist, they resign, they sail off into the sunset with their wonderful pension paid for by taxpayers, and there's never accountability. And that's why we keep getting these problems over and over and over again. That's why the government is so out of control, because nobody's ever punished for not just incompetence. I mean, incompetence occasionally can be forgiven, but in this case, I believe this is much worse than incompetence. You mentioned the CIA too. I think the CIA needs to be very seriously looked at. When people ask about this Crooks guy, how did they get that guy on the roof? I don't know the exact mechanism yet, but we do know the FBI's got a very long track record of radicalizing idiots, people who have mental issues, potheads. Actually, every major attempted terrorist attack since 9/11, and Human Rights Watch actually did this. They said every single one featured the direct involvement of government agents. And so hypothetically, I'm not saying this is what happened, but hypothetically, maybe some guy who's facing serious felony charges is recruited by the FBI to go find some idiot who hates Donald Trump and say, hey, you could be a hero. You could stop literally Hitler. Imagine future generations will thank you for doing this. And, we can make sure you can get up on this roof and get you a rifle. No problem at all. They blow his brains out. He's the Lee Harvey Oswald. Can't ask any questions. There's no trial. Is that what happened? I don't know. Another, I think, plausible hypothesis to go back to the CIA, MK Ultra. How quickly we forget these things, right? They were exposed by Congress doing some of the most horrific things imaginable. MK Ultra was their mind control program. It was allegedly a response to Soviet mind control programs. So, hey, we got to have one too. And we know some of what they did. They shredded most of the documents before Congress could get to them. But even the ones that weren't shredded give us some real insight into what they were doing. They were force feeding mental patients LSD. They were using trauma to try to shatter people's brains and create multiple personalities in there, at least one of which could be programmed to do assassinations. So is that what happened? I don't know. But these are all questions that need to be asked. And we need to recognize that the cover-ups we have had historically are out of control. To go back to the JFK assassination briefly, the Warren Commission was a total joke. It was a total fraud. Everybody with two brain cells to rub together knows that. So Congress did their own investigation. We never got to the bottom of it, but they did conclude, thankfully, that this was not the work of a lone nut. This was the work, they said, probably of a conspiracy, which just means two or more people working in secret.
I did a video about Lyndon Baines Johnson and the Kennedy connection. I will link it at the end of this one. And what he's talking about, the Warren Commission, was something that Lyndon Baines Johnson came up with to investigate what happened during, the JFK assassination. And it was led by the person who actually had a hand in doing it. You'll need to look at that video. It is very, very informative, as this one is. But history, always remember that history is our best teacher. I always say, same script, different actor.
For nefarious or illegal purposes. I would bet every last dollar, if I were a betting man, that what just happened with Donald Trump was a conspiracy. And they're hoping that we'll all just believe that some lone nut gunman, 20 years old, outsmarted the Secret Service because they're all fools. And frankly, I think we need to draw the line and say, we were born at night, but not last night. That's absurd.
Yeah. Okay. You mentioned Hakeem Jeffries, not yet that you have a hard time believing that he really would care about getting to the bottom of this. I keep thinking, these same Democrats that were saying Trump is the modern day Hitler, he's worse than Mussolini, he's Hitler. Suddenly, he's shot, and it's like prayers for Trump, prayers for the Trump family. We need to get to the bottom of this. Oh, prayers for Hitler? Like, whoa, why did you, prayers for Trump equals prayers for Hitler? That's where my brain goes. Is like, I don't trust any of these people to be on the committee. I'm grateful that it's bipartisan because I hope that will help keep it fair. But what I would love to see is like a committee of 13 people that like Donald Trump, because I believe that they would actually want to get to the bottom of this. Hakeem Jeffries, he took one day off to say maybe one prayer for Donald Trump, and then went back to saying this guy's going to destroy democracy. It's like, even if the FBI or the CIA or somebody wasn't involved, at least we know the mainstream media and members of Congress were brainwashing this Thomas Matthew Crooks, saying Donald Trump was evil over and over again. And like you say, if you had a clear shot at Hitler, why wouldn't you take it? So all they had to do was make Donald Trump Hitler, and somebody was going to take that shot.
Yeah. And I think it's very deliberate. It's very strategic. You have a deliberate effort to undermine the United States of America. It's been in place for a very long time. And to kind of merge the United States into this global system that all these globalists constantly harp on about. They've been talking publicly since at least the 1990s. And Donald Trump, again, doesn't matter what you think about him, he stands as an obstacle in the way of that process. In his first administration, he proved he wasn't just a normal politician. He doesn't just say things people want to hear and then do the opposite. When he said he was going to take a wrecking ball to the United Nations, that's exactly what he did. He got us out of UNESCO. He got us out of UNRWA. He got us out of the UN Human Rights Council. He blew up the Paris Accord. And so they know he's serious. When he said he was going to restore American energy dominance, he did it in a period of a few years. We went from a massive net importer of energy, of oil, from, in many cases, mass murdering communist and Islamic dictatorships, to becoming, for the first time since Eisenhower, a net exporter of energy. So if your agenda is to destroy the United States, and there's a guy like Donald Trump who's proved he's serious about reversing that process, well, he becomes then an existential threat. And so then you brainwash your followers to believe he's literally Hitler, which we've heard literally a bazillion times. And presto, you get somebody to work the magic. You hire a bunch of incompetent people for the Secret Service. And you allow a guy with a rifle to sit up on a roof that you can't cover because the slope is too slopey.
See, the media is the one doing the brainwashing so that people can just not vote for that person. And you know what they did in the last, election. I don't even have to tell you. Okay, I don't have to tell you what really happened. So the media is just going out, putting out this AH from Germany narrative. He's this, he's this, he's this. And it gets people who are already not quite right in the head to do things that they shouldn't do. We got to remember, these people are globalists. These people are part of the deep state. The government is ran by unelected bureaucrats in DC. These people want nothing more than to just stay rich, put us under their control. They want to destroy our country. And Donald Trump literally is standing in the way. 2016 was not in their plans. Okay. Donald Trump won the presidency. It just blew everybody's mind. Everybody looked like they were so depressed in the mainstream, the propaganda media. They were so depressed. But everybody, we need to be praying for this man, his family, everybody around him, and that the truth everybody knows the truth. We need to let the truth get out.
It's so outrageous. And none of the people who've been on this anti-Trump crusade for all these years can be trusted to seriously investigate this.
Yeah. Have you been following this idea or theory, for lack of a better word, that there could be two shooters? I recently had Dr. Chris Mortensen Martinson on my show, and he was able to show me the audio of 3 bullets, a pause, and then 5 more bullets that sound totally different echo, and then a last bullet that also sounded, and yet we're being told there were only a couple of shots and then one miracle shot from the sniper. Have you looked into that? What are your thoughts on that?
I have. And frankly, I thought the audio was very convincing. It sounds to me like there were probably 2 shooters. And that's par for the course in operations like this. I don't think anybody knows, outside of whoever was involved, exactly what happened with JFK. But I think it at this point should be very clear that there was more than one shooter. This wasn't just, the lone nut up in the book depository, Lee Harvey Oswald, who very conveniently was shot by Jack Ruby. I think we have the same situation here, where they probably had a professional sniper to kind of do the dirty deed if this 20-year-old doofus did not succeed. And I believe just exactly what Donald Trump said. His first real public comments after the fight thing was that God alone had preserved his life. And as a believer, I do believe in the sovereignty of God, and I do believe that Donald Trump preserved his life. I think this was a professional attempt by professionals who do this for a living to murder him. And I believe they had people on the inside helping them, and they failed. And I think that is what explains the very, very clear difference in the noise between the first 2 shots that were fired and the second round of shots that were fired.
Yeah. With Dr. Martinson, I had told him that after getting COVID really, really bad, I ended up with panic attacks and heart issues. And so the gunshot spikes that he shows reminded me of my echocardiogram, right? And you look at the first 3, they're very controlled, very spaced, like somebody is really taking their time to get those shots off. And then the next 5, which have a totally different sound and signal to them, look very out of control. Boom, 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 right? And they just look like 2 different heartbeats. Just to help people understand, as I listened to those, I could clearly hear the difference between the shots. It sounded even like maybe different types of guns. I don't know. Isn't it convenient that they got this miracle shot through the tree that took him out, and now we can't ask him any questions to find this out? And then as we dig in, a 20-year-old has no social media footprint, has 3 encrypted international bank accounts, has people coming to his house multiple times with geo-tracking, and then going back to, right next to an FBI building. Lots of things not adding up for me.
Yeah. And I think anybody who's just looking at this objectively and rationally should be coming to that same conclusion. And I think one of the things that we're going to see in the months to come, Stephen, is just like we saw with the JFK, they're going to throw all kinds of totally idiotic, totally ridiculous theories out there to try to discredit anyone who's asking questions. And I think the first one of those is already starting to emerge. We see a lot of leftists, including some mainstream leftists, saying, oh, no, Donald Trump was in on this. This was a staged assassination attempt. This was Donald Trump's people. I mean, give me a break, right? And so if they can throw 50, 60, 70 totally absurd conspiracy theories out there, then that makes it much more difficult to find the truth. So I think we need to be clear. These are legitimate questions. These are questions that need to be answered. And unfortunately, we cannot trust the majority of the individuals and agencies who claim to be investigating this on our behalf right now. So, but we do have to get to the bottom of this. And I do believe that when they missed, they went back to the drawing board. So I think Donald Trump's life remains in danger. I think there are very, very powerful people who still want to get rid of him. They see the writing on the wall when it comes to the election. They know that there's no way Kamala Harris or even Gavin Newsom or any of these people is going to win in a legitimate election. And so they're getting desperate now. And I hope Donald Trump's got a lot of his own very, very good security people surrounding him, and not just this clownish Secret Service agency that has become such a disgrace.
Yeah. His life is still in danger, and we all need to pray like never, ever before. And I've said it before, Donald Trump needs to get his own security. He does not need to depend on any governmental agency right now, because they are out to get this man. They are desperate. This man, Alex Newman, said that he thinks that they're getting desperate. No, they've been desperate. I could just sense that, oh my gosh, these people are really, really desperate. They really hate him that much. And I always say they didn't count on the God factor. They didn't count that God would actually disrupt their plans. So we have to continue praying. And you guys are going to do a little investigation on some things and try to do a video that will somehow still make it on YouTube. You know what I mean? Because when you tell too much of the truth, you're told to hush. You know that. Anyone, I'm talking about since biblical times. You know, I refer back to the Bible a lot as a Christian. And since biblical times, people who tell the truth, they put them in prison. They tell the truth. They literally told the disciples, stop preaching the gospel. No longer mention the name of Jesus. And they kept doing it. They put them in prison. So when people tell the truth, they get put in prison. That is just something that history has taught us. All we have to do is look at history. And history, I'm going to keep saying it, it repeats itself. Same script, different actor. Well, I hope you guys like the video. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. I'll link the original video in the description. Please go to the website, childlikecandles.com. This is a Christian veteran-owned company. 25% of their profits go to veterans and their families. Everything made in America. Input the discount code LindaB to get your discount. Also, you can visit C60EVO. This is a health and wellness company. They make great products for health, beauty, wellness. You will enjoy looking younger and feeling great. Input the discount code ChatWithLinda or LindaB. The link is in the description. You all be blessed. Love God, your families, these United States of America. And as they always say, march on, warriors.